And we're back, part two. So to pick up where I left off, not for nothing. Side note from the actual mini series, if we're really going in that direction of just we can't even be bothered to even turn a knob or turn a key, you have to also take into consideration that much like a computer, it can lock, it can freeze, it can have glitches. But yet, knowing all that information, these people are still willing to move in, especially our Emma Matthews. She desperately wants to move in. She wants to start her life over. She feels that this is the key, the answer to her all her problems, and her situation will change, and she'll blossom and be able to be her old self, and perhaps put away or push away the trauma that she went through. Nonetheless, she still had a therapist though that she would frequent to help her through the process. We follow her in her career. I think she works in advertising or marketing for a particular water cooler company. You can see there's a bit of tension between her and her boss. But nonetheless, they're making it work. Slowly, though, we see Emmons' character creeping in. And his character is giving very much 9.5 weeks, like Mickey Rourke's, very much in control. And 50 Shades of Grey, all these films, right? The man very much is in control of the setting, because they're control freaks because of their own personal trauma or childhood, messed up childhood. So if they're not in control, there's an issue, or they can't handle it. It was giving me very much, I think it's called Sliver from 1983 with Billy Baldwin and Sharon Stone. Voyeurism to a certain degree. At first, it doesn't seem apparent, but doesn't it? Because they are told as that they're moving in, they will have regular checkups by these agents under Emmons' uh, um, ruling or whatever. He has this whole architect firm and they work for him, and he sends these agents to check to see that they're living and abiding by the rules. They keep tidy and whatnot. No messy, no messes, no messy guests. No children can't just roam around and do whatever they want. It's not a family oriented house. So you can see that they're trying to Emma and Simon are trying to get accustomed and want to socialize now in their home. They have guests. They have some recreational drugs, and she has this beautiful dress. Not for nothing, I love that dress. I was like, ooh, honey, if I ever find something like that, very 70s glam, loved it. Sparkles and fringe. She looks like a young Diana Ross. She's partying it up, having a little bit of, and you can see that she's still like in her feelings, very much going through the motions. And Simon's looking at her like, oh, she's dressed sexy and provocative. Maybe I'll finally get a chance to be with her. At the end, they wrap it up. The party, everybody's heading home. And, her boss and his best friend are like, we're going to a club. We can continue the party. And she was just like disgusted, like, get out of my house. Simon approaches Emma, seeing if he can finally be intimate with his girlfriend. She's not having it. She's too traumatized. Not to mention the fact that when she was sexually violated, it was recorded onto her phone. So she still has evidence and a reminder of that horrible incident. And she did report it, but the guy was like not caught until like much later. The police actually decide to pop in on her, and now they're like scrambling to get rid of any like paraphernalia, and to just let her know that somebody, a suspect, who fit the description, has been caught, and she is to identify. and she was told basically by, I believe, I don't know his name, but he's like the deputy, you know, and I believe her lawyer representing her in this case, that all she has to do is give her opinion, or make her statements clear, and she won't have to ever present herself in a court of law. But things take a shift, and before she knows it, she does have to, and she's still very much uncomfortable. You know, anybody who's going through some process like that. Now, this is all her backstory, which mimics our current character, which is Jane, played by Gugu Mbatha-Raw. She wasn't a victim, and when she moves in is 3 years after Emma and Simon have been in that house, and so it's funny to see flashbacks between Emma and Jane that mirror each other. In fact, both women look nearly identical. They could be twins. Same hair, same aesthetic, both professionals, about the same age range, skin tone. For heaven's sake, they nearly sound alike. But in Jane's case, it wasn't, she did go through her own bouts of trauma, but she went through stillbirth. So that was traumatic, and she also was getting constantly reminded of that, just for the simple fact that people were pitying her, her job, and another coworker who was pregnant, I think nearly the same time as she was able to have her child. So all of that was affecting her. She wasn't dating anyone, so it wasn't like Emma, who was bringing in a boyfriend. But we see both of their lives semi-mirroring each other. And I bring that up because Edmund is very much involved in these people's lives, to the point where Edmund likes what he sees physically from both ladies and approaches them in the same exact way. Plays footsie, plays coquettish, flirty, and is able to wine and dine them. He's very charming when it came to the ladies. Now, remember, Emma is attached, and slowly but surely, her relationship is deteriorating. Even the first face-off that Simon and Emma have, you can see that they're kind of having, like, you know, unfortunately, for the lack of a better word, a kind of like a dick sizing competition, who has a bigger dick. Because not that they're actually doing that, but they're literally, like, you know, fisticuffs in personality when it comes to, like, you know, like Emma had an issue where she spilled coffee, and Simon is like consistently apologizing, and then there's where they start sizing each other up, because Emma is like, never apologize for someone that you love, because it just, if you do that, it just proves that how much of a prick you are. And right there was already an issue. Like, they already were trying to one up each other, and you could see that Simon already was like disgusted with him, and so was Edmund. So when Edmund catches wind that Simon is not making Emma happy, he weasels his way in and charms her and takes her out on dates behind Simon's back. And then finally they have a big blow up, Simon and Emma, and they break up. And the first person that she thinks of is Edmund, and they have very passionate sex scenes in this house. Very reminiscent of how Stella got her groove back. I haven't seen a steamy hot shower scene like that in a long time, so it's like, oh. And this is what I'll say about these particular shows, and especially when they're done beautifully and outside of the United States, because it's just a story, you know, and it's done and shot so beautifully. We see black professionals leading their lives, their normal lives. They're not like the side character or the person that needs to be included just so that it's just a story. It's just a story, and you can follow the story. And that's why I love this type of storytelling, because you can lose yourself in the story. and you're not constantly bombarded that this is the person that's there for diversity purposes. That's why, if anything, I've always fallen in love with foreign films, and especially films from Latin America, because it's just a story. You know, unfortunately, here in the States, it doesn't translate. It doesn't translate on film and or TV, and you can see that it's forced and it's jammed and it's complicated. But these stories, like from the BBC, that's why I love Black Mirror, and I can't recommend it enough. So, getting back to the story, you can see that but he's very particular about certain things. She is not to have tattoos. She is not to act a certain way. And she starts questioning, like, what the hell? Because again, she is relatively young. I think he's a little older than her, and so there's already an issue there. But as we start investigating, we start digging into Edmund's past. Edmund had a wife that looked near identical to Emma and Jane. And from aesthetic wise, it's almost like he's trying to recreate his past and is going through that loss that he never was able to grieve over, being the professional person that he is. And he seems like a person that bottles everything up. So his way of dealing with it, or perhaps redoing his past, is by having these particular residents that he dates, which is a big no-no. But again, people deal with grief in different ways. So that's what we're seeing here. And then when they start realizing, like, what, and you do your own research, because not for nothing, I mean, he's so controlling. Even the information that you try to Google via your laptop is not allowed. Your phone, though, he can't touch. So that's where they start finding all of this information and start kind of putting these puzzle pieces together. So, and whenever he's intimate with them, the questionnaire pops up again. And if you don't answer the questionnaire, you can't turn on the damn faucet to even take a shower. So this is what I'm saying. Be careful. Because people think like, oh, it's, they always say what's the saying? All that glitters isn't gold. And you're thinking you're getting like, oh my God, what a deal, what a steal, this beautiful house that I could never afford. I can live there for practically beans, but it comes with that cost. And the fact that he's always watching. So in the case of Emma, you can see Simon's kind of getting aggressive. He can't believe he's being dumped. And for Edmund, how did he know so quickly that he was there? They were having like an altercation almost to the point where he was like yanking her. And Emmett was quick to call and disrupt that and says, I need you to sign the papers. You are no longer on the lease. You are no longer allowed in this house. And you need to vacate. With time passing and a lot of sexy scenes, we start discovering that now Emma is past tense. So Emma, soon after a lot of sexy romps and fighting, that Miss Emma passes. She died in that house. And that was kind of our introduction to Jane too, because Jane, as she moves in, she realizes that somebody keeps leaving like a beautiful bouquet of flowers constantly being left on her doorstep. And she realizes that it's Simon when she calls his attention, like, who are you? Look, I'm not Emma. And he's like, I know that, but I leave it there every day in memory of her. She would have been 30. So she was like a young 20-something. I remember him saying that in the first few, I think the first or second episode. But yeah. And she starts, wanting to know more. So she starts digging. She gets more information from Simon. And all fingers are pointing to Edmund because of his controlling behavior. Could he have done something to poor Emma in that house? So it becomes, very much intriguing, the thriller whodunit, this particular miniseries. And then we see that, she starts digging about Emma's past with that deputy. She also realizes that nobody really genuinely cared about her trauma. They just wanted to, nab whomever and put the finger on them, and then that guy also becomes a danger to her. He finds out where she lives and almost tries to fillet her, But thankfully, Simon, by some chance, happens to be close and scares him off. Tells her that, regardless of what's happened between them, that she could always depend on him. She finally confesses who was her true assailant, her true her true abuser, which the one that victimized her was her boss and best friend to him, and that's why they were having so many issues in the relationship. She couldn't look at him, she couldn't see him, her Simon, her boyfriend, because she would attach it to what they had done to her trauma. And yet he still felt that, you could have told me, or whatever the case may be. They have a very touching scene. But it starts to become very scary to live there. And yet I know people are like, why doesn't she just pick up her stuff and go? But I don't know. Maybe she was too involved. Maybe she liked this. Maybe it was a distraction for her to be dating Edmund and this controlling kind of relationship. People do things for a number of reasons. We can't judge. And then we find out that because she was pinning the crime on somebody that didn't commit the crime, she self-perjured herself, I believe, and they arrest her. She's looking at some consequences but she had been violated. So, but it was left kind of like in the air. And when she kept trying to call this lawyer deputy or whatever the case may be, he was enraged because now he was looking at job loss. So he was like, don't call me no more, call the proper number. Whenever she felt scared, and she kept seeing like blots of paint because they kept throwing paint at her. So it was scary to live in that house. Anyway, towards the end, she feels like she's safe. Emma, she's listening to her headphones and gets a text from Edmund. Now they had a big blow up right before that text. Edmund was like done. He just was like, you're too chaotic. This is not you. Because he relates this new person to his past, who is not his former wife. His former wife died in in the construction of this building, of this house. Perhaps that's why he treasures it. So he was supposed to be living there with his wife, but a wall fell on top of her and the son. They had a son, and they had to bury. He had them buried in this pebble garden that they have there. Bonsai looking tree. And I think also this is what happens with Jane. She finds out all this information about Emma because in her having her sexy romps with Edmund, she turns out to get pregnant. So she needs to know for her own safety, am I pregnant now of some possible killer? What happened to Emma? She finds all that information out. She even seeks the same therapist, and though they can't have a formal discussion because she would be violating patient-doctor confidentiality. Nonetheless, she gathers her own issues and is able to express that she went through a lot of loss with the stillbirth that she had. She finds out herself that it was a mishandling at the hospital that she was going to, where she was seeking treatment. They didn't do a proper job. But you see how the two women are kind of connected. And also because, they slept with the same man. And then as we further dig deeper, we realize, so she gets Emma, going back to the past, Emma gets a text that she thought that, well, perhaps Edmund was coming back and wanted to make amends with her. She gets all sexy and wears these beautiful pearls that he had gifted them. Hence the pearls I'm wearing. But these are like a sturdy, heavy pearl. And Jane had found the new girl had found this pearl stuck under this beautiful tub that they have in the bathroom. But she couldn't peg it. She was like, where's this from? And Edmund had gifted her the same pearl necklace, for heaven's sake. Like, man, get some other gifts, honey. Get some other ideas for gifts. Don't gift the same thing to people. And it was a beautiful necklace of pearls, but nothing was missing, so it wasn't that pearl. It was a pearl from another set. And she finds out when she, I believe she goes to an appraiser, and he's able to kind of give her an information. Is like, this is a sturdy stone. I think Japanese. Everything's very Japanese in this home. Um, and so in regards to Emma, Emma's in the home and getting ready for Edmund. Wears the pearl necklace, ready for him for another sexy romp, and then realizes that Simon is sitting there. And Simon admits that he had sent her the text, that he changed her contact information perhaps when she was sleeping. And there's like this is a security office that they never noticed, because everything is like marble stone, everything, so it feels very much like Panic Room. Have you ever seen the movie Panic Room? You know what I'm talking about. So there's like this little hidden room where, in case there's